Welcome to this week's episode with, this is going to be a cool title, Assemblyman Joe Dalia. I've never said that out loud before. Assemblyman. Welcome to the show. You're a first-term Nevada State Assemblyman who I would pose from like reading a lot of your work, built a winning Democratic platform on things like laser focus on the working class, innovation, diversifying the economy with entrepreneurship, education, safety, a woman's right to kind of make choices about their body. And this comes at the exact point when Democrats are unequivocally going through an identity, like a once in a generation identity crisis. So I want to hear how someone with your persona, if I'm guessing correct, I was trying to do the math. You're somewhere between the age of like 33, 35. So you're one of my peers. Like
right normally,
most of the folks are, twice my age on this show. So what I understand is you were raised in the exact Nevada district that you ran in and won last year.
That's right.
But like myself, it's like, hey, I grew up in South Orange County. I went to school in one area. I went to grad school in a different area. I worked in Silicon Valley, and I actually live back in my home district almost. I'm like right on the border.
Amazing.
So like let's kick it off on I'm thrilled by your pedigree as Michigan Law, Boston U for undergrad. You were an entrepreneur for a season. You worked and work at Meta on their like kind of the legal side of things. Doing that while raising a family as a Nevada State Assemblyman. Like, for one, how are you doing it all? And two, like, what drives all of these passions?
I mean, it takes an incredible amount of juggling. But I wish I could say, the fortunate thing I have in my life is that I have my life partner, Marina, my college sweetheart. Aww. She keeps the trains running on time and she makes everything work here at home. And if that wasn't possible, I don't think the rest of it could even remotely work. So, credit to her, credit to my family for, making the sacrifice. It's just as much of a sacrifice for them as it is for me to do this. So, I think all the credit goes to them for this, my crazy juggling act working here. In terms of what drives me to do this, I think that has, evolved over time. But I think, I was someone that grew up not in a family of means, right? We were really struggling to get by. And from an early age, I knew that I wanted to, one, pull myself out of that situation. And that's what my parents wanted for me too, right? Get an education, go out there and build something for myself. And I knew also that I wanted to be the type of person that got up the ladder and then put my arm down to get somebody else up, right? And so that has manifested for me as public service. And it has been a privilege. There's nothing like running in your home district, right? And going around to, my daughter just went to my old elementary school, right? Like that's in my district. I got to go meet voters at the park I used to swing on the swings. There's nothing like that. It's an incredible, unbelievable privilege. And, for me, I see the struggles that we're up against in terms of, there's a lot going on, but really economically, we're at a weird point where I think and not to get too far ahead of where we're going, technology and a few other factors are converging in a way where our economy and our labor force is about to change significantly. And I think it's more important than ever that we have folks in leadership positions that understand that market and understand what technology is going to do to it.
Oh, that couldn't be more near and dear to my heart. I resonate with a lot of that. Like the entire journey of, the park that I swing in the swing ain't that far up the hill. So the idea of local politics being a calling, I find that super commendable. Okay, well, so for the listeners, you're getting to know Joe a little bit. Here's exactly how I experienced getting to know Joe asynchronously online, which is an article authored, came out less than a month ago, Newsweek op-ed, co-published by, a lot of us are going to know the name, Ro Khanna, which is the congressional representative of a lot of my friends in Silicon Valley, who therefore it's like, man, a lot of my investors are his donors. a lot of the spaces that he hangs out in are the restaurants and the bars that I frequented when I lived up there. And let me describe how I enjoyed reading, starting with the title, A New Deal for American Entrepreneurship, and what really culminated in the exact act drafted by Joe in the Nevada Assembly titled the Homegrown Opportunity Act. I'm going to set you up to describe this writ large, and I want to hear the backstory. Right. I want to hear everything about it. But ultimately, I was inspired by how you, as a Democratic representative and a up and coming leader of the Democratic Party, I'll say that.
Thank you.
If you're getting to do an op-ed with Ro Khanna, that's a cool start at least. And at the exact point when Democrats are doing so much soul searching, you brought a series of really creative solutions to address the working class's inaccessibility to the American dream.
Right.
In ways that are grounded in the exact blockers. So it's not another let's convince Intel to build a factory here, or convince some VC to put up a shop maybe for the top 1% of founders.
Right.
It has the opportunity to affect hundreds of thousands of potential business leaders and owners. So Joe, that's the setup. Tell us everything about the act, and then I'm going to ask a lot more about the story behind it.
Sure. Yeah. So the act itself is a pretty simple proposition, right? If you are an aspiring entrepreneur, we're going to try to take down some barriers for you. We're going to put you up in housing for 2 years. We're going to have your food, your housing, all the things that make your life tick are going to be paid for that 2-year period. It's almost like a college experience where for that 2 years, you need to be laser focused on starting a Nevada business, right? Yeah. There's an application process. We'll have an investment committee. But the idea behind this, and I mean, there's some component where the founder themselves is going to have to pay back in just to make the economics work, right? I mean, the number one question you get with any program you roll out, how are you going to pay for it? This has to be internally solvent. So there's going to be some degree of that. But I think there's a way to creatively structure the economics where someone comes in, the state helps you up the ladder. You work to build this business, and then on the 10th year or so, you kind of graduate out of paying back into the system, and you're free to operate under whatever existing regulatory and tax environment happens to exist writ large. So I think, looking around, in my community in particular, there is this overwhelming need for new economic opportunities. And I think this is, as much as I've pitched this as, and obviously Representative Khanna saw it the same way, this is something that could work anywhere. But in my home state, where we're so limited in our economic offerings, it's never been more important for us to build alternative options. And I viewed this as a way to introduce something really dramatic into the economy that leans into innovation and entrepreneurship and the heart of the American dream, really. So it's a bill I'm obviously really passionate about, and obviously one that's resonated with folks like you.
Yeah. Oh, instantly resonated. So many different threads to pull on. I think the first one is most investors would assume it's okay, it's either venture capital or an SBA loan, a Small Business Administration loan, kind of this federally subsidized. But I think part of the reason I was so drawn to what you are putting forward is it actually addressed what I experienced. It's hey, my parents were in Christian ministry when I was a kid. I did not have some trust fund to look forward to when I graduated college. If I wasn't hitting payroll, the employees were hosed and I was hosed in my first couple of years. So the idea of at bare minimum, both myself when I started Immerse as a single person, but dear heavens, if I were to start it today with a kiddo and a wife, it's existentially stressful, so much so that it's prohibitive.
Right.
And the housing and the food and just those cords, oh my gosh, I would have operated with actually a different degree of risk tolerance and excellence if I didn't have existential dread hanging over me at all hours of the day and night. So I'm sure you have a lot of thoughts in that area. Take it and run.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think this is something that, like, I mean, there's definitely a degree of like making capital available is a core component of making a business work. But I mean, we're in this new era where AI has taken down a lot of those, like a ChatGPT subscription can do so much more for you than what used to be
Yeah.
available. And it can honestly displace an entire team's work. Like if your barriers to entry before were I need $100,000 and 5 engineers, it might be the case that $30 a month to ChatGPT has you covered for depending on the business model, right? And that's an incredible opportunity, but there is that reality of like people have to feed their families, people have to deal with the rent. And there's this constant drumbeat of just trying to keep up and just stay afloat. And if we don't help people out of that, there's no way they're going to take the leap to start a business. And we have constructed our economy in this, our labor force really, in this incredibly inefficient way where talent has been aggregated amongst the biggest companies because they want to monopolize the market space. And part of that is, I mean, companies I've served, I mean, they aggregate talent, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of lieutenants that could be generals. A lot of folks that I work with could be entrepreneurs. And I think that things like this, opportunities like this, if we roll these out nationwide, we're going to fix that problem by pushing these people to reach their potential as entrepreneurs, as job creators.
Yeah, brilliant. Oh, it's spot on. We're going to get into like all of the headwinds and tailwinds the average entrepreneur is feeling, whether it's the regressiveness of the big, beautiful bill, AI. But before we go there, how the heck did you even like connect with Ro? Like, tell me, what's the origin story?
So Ro, he is actually very involved in Nevada politics. He's been a stalwart in this community. He's done some incredible work across the border for us. And, I actually met him through a connection, and it's really rare. He worked at Wilson Sonsini as an attorney. I worked at Cooley as an attorney.
Got it. Yep.
Those firms are right down the street from each other in Palo Alto. And so when we met, I mean, he'd been used to meeting people in Nevada with, that are attorneys. As soon as he heard that background, he's like, wait, what is, what's going on? And so we connected pretty quick. And, he was one of the first people I brought this idea to because I knew, anytime you introduce a new idea into the marketplace, there's going to be a spectrum of reactions, right? And I know one of the primary ones you engage with is people saying, that can't possibly work because if it could, we would have done it by now, right? And one, I don't know that that's true. And two, like, knowing that was going to be part of the reaction spectrum, I wanted to make sure I vetted this with people who were in a position to tell me if the idea was bonkers, right? The right kind of crazy or the wrong kind of crazy. And I called him up. He loved the idea. He said, let's go in together on this. And we ended up writing the op-ed in Newsweek. And the reaction has been really heartening. I think a lot of people have seen this as a potential lifeline and opportunity that didn't used to exist, right? Especially in our state where, there's a limited set of industries. And to open up an opportunity for people, especially from like these really difficult circumstances, to just for 2 years, they can just go all in.
Yeah. And
if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. But they can live with the fact that they got an opportunity. They got a real shake at it. So
wow.
Yeah.
Oh, I really am. If anything, I'm impressed by both you and Ro. I'm like, I love the everything you just described feels entrepreneurial to me. Like, obviously, we're talking about entrepreneurs, but this entire endeavor is entrepreneurial.
Well, and that's actually been the funniest part about this is because this has kind of transformed me. Like, I've been a public servant, and now I feel like a public servant and a motivational speaker because I'm trying to get all these people to go
and like
from
a tech accelerator. Like, and you're like actually funding and fueling new entrepreneurs. Like, what a dream.
I know that's been to go from like a Y Combinator applicant to someone trying to create a state Y Combinator. It's been a really unbelievable experience.
Wow. Okay. Well, so now I think the next thing that comes to mind for me is because I followed obsessively closely the process of the big, beautiful bill, working through chambers of Congress. And with each new edition, I'm like, it's somehow getting more regressive, meaning the value accrues to the top 10%, 1%, 0.1%. I'll set it up, even though if you're a frequent listener, you've heard me say this before, the top 1% is effectively getting an annual $60K bonus. The top 0.1%, it's a $300K annual bonus. Just just issued to you by Democratic chambers in Congress, at the same time that the bottom 20% are quite literally losing money on their taxes, and another 10 million people are going to lose access to healthcare, which can cost 5 to 10 grand a year. So it just feels like what I love about entrepreneurship, it creates net new value.
Right.
Where this whole concept is a really linear zero sum and not even camouflage, not even disguised. It's just like right out in the open. Okay, if you're rich, 300 grand. If you're poor, you lost a couple $100 and you lost 10 million people. Lost healthcare. And now what I'm driving at and why I think it's so, like, I think my first instinct when I read the paper was like, oh, this is creative. Republicans are going to call this just another opportunity for abuse for the working class, or whatever, a certain persona of people to skate by and get 2 years of free housing. And I think that the reason that once I like dug a layer past and really tried to conceptualize it, the reason I like it is, this is no offense to my friends that started a tech company who had a couple $1 million in their trust fund. They didn't need the free housing. Like they wouldn't even apply for this. And all the other financial instruments that exist for entrepreneurship, subsidized loans, federally like secured, venture capital, oftentimes those accrue to the people who are in the life situation. They can take advantage of it. They've got the housing, they've got the trust fund, they've got the car paid off, maybe they got the house paid off.
Right.
So all of a sudden I'm like, this is actually the opposite of regressive. Put really simply, the friends of mine with means wouldn't even think to apply for this. And therefore, it just directly impacts whether it's myself, parents in ministry and no money in savings when I started, or maybe someone in a far more challenging circumstance. It gives them the first little light at the end of the tunnel saying, wait a second, could I start a business? Just the concept is powerful. So like, I'm sure you've thought about it. I know you have 100 times more than me, but keep going in that vein.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. That actually brings me to like the two pools, right? So we envision having 75% reserved for low income applicants, right?
Yeah, cool.
And then 25%, to make the economics work, we didn't want to like, I have been someone who's on the wrong ends of means testing, so I don't want that to be the end all be all. But if we do a 25% split where 25% is driven by just the concept itself, and we're taking in applicants from anywhere, that also might be a nice way to inject new ideas and new creators into Nevada's ecosystem. And then we have the 75% Nevada low-income resident pool. I think it's a good balance of risk, a good balance of ideas and backgrounds. And I think it would create an opportunity for us to, the best way to make this work is to do it in partnership with some of the venture capital community.
Yeah.
And that was actually a big, because I know like at the end of the day, like folks will need a Series A. They're going to need an exit. There's going to be something that comes after the 2 years, right? I mean, some of them might come in and start a lifestyle business and maybe they never need to be venture backed. And that's great. Like, I think we actually do need to train more people to say, you know what, you're going to start a $300,000 business and that's what you're going to like, and you're going to make good money doing that. And you're going to be your own boss.
Yeah.
Like, that's a great outcome. I mean, it's an outcome that people kind of don't think of in the distribution, right? They think of failure, fire, and crashing, like crashing and burning, or they think of like you're part of $1 billion company and you're in early, right? They don't really think about the lifestyle. So I could go on and on about that, but I think that aside from those folks, the folks that really want to start something big, we're gonna need to have some partnership from the venture capital community. And that was a big component of my first session. So in the session that just wrapped up in June, I ran a couple of bills that were aimed at making Nevada. There's a big push right now for Delaware to stop being the premier state to file your incorporation paperwork.
I'm
Exit.
very aware.
It's become, it went from being this kind of niche thing when I was an attorney in the Valley to now it's like in the common parlance. There's Twitter accounts about it that have like hundreds of thousands of followers. It has become a bit of a movement. And I knew that my state had an opportunity to seize on the revenue from that and seize on the opportunity to bring new entrepreneurs, innovators, and investors to the state. So I introduced two bills, AB 239 that updated our corporate laws, and AJR 8 that introduced a statewide business court. And we just had Andreessen Horowitz announce they were coming to Nevada, and the press release announcing that, they pointed to my two bills as part of the reason why.
Oh,
So,
that's so cool.
yeah. I know. And this is, when people are asking for results, I'm able to point to something like that and say, like, look, results, immediate results. And, results that actually have the ability to change the face of our economy and give people new opportunities that were never possible before. So,
wow.
So this idea was kind of an outgrowth of that, right? I mean, I think I wanted to find more ways to deepen, like I am all about Moneyball. My state is a crazy puzzle, right? Because we don't have money. We have $12 billion as our budget. By comparison, I think New York City's budget is like $112 billion.
Wow.
Just the city, not the state.
I know.
And
crazy.
So, and we have no state income tax, no capital gains tax, limited business taxes, and the appetite to change those things is basically non-existent. So it's like, if you're going to create new revenue, to create new economic development programs, you have to get very creative. So that's how I landed on those bills. That's how I landed on this bill that's designed to be not only internally solvent, but in the long term, a massive revenue driver in its own right, while delivering all these opportunities. So I'm going to think a little bit outside the box here, but I think we're, in terms of delivering real value to constituents, this is something I'm really passionate about.
Wow. Oh, it's brilliant. I'm totally here for it. I think just another trend that I'm curious what you're experiencing, like in your district.
Yeah.
But my purview, living in Southern California, running a company with 80 employees, is the stock market has been more or less ripping for 2 years.
Right.
So 2020 was that correction, right? Where everything kind of dropped by 30 to 50%, at 30%. And then what I think has confused a lot of friends of mine is like, so you're telling me all the big tech stocks are reaching all-time highs month over month, and AI is going to drive an even higher profit margin and productivity.
Right.
And the big tech folks are saying that AI isn't going to replace jobs. But what's actually kind of occurring,
right.
And I'll just speak to friends of mine, or honestly, it's like I've got two younger siblings, so it's more their generation. The folks in that 20 to 25 area were like, hey, we were promised, if you get a job in software engineering, oh my gosh, guaranteed 6 figures out the gate, all these cushy perks. And in reality, the things that I'm watching are quite literally the number of job listings in software engineering is down by 30 to 40% in the last 3 years, like year over year. The unemployment rate amongst college educated software engineers looking for that first or second job is actually 2 to 3 times higher if you're a software engineer. Because the New York Times did this big piece on it last week. And one of the things that blew my mind is the unemployment rate among software engineers is double that of art history majors, which is like the one that people love to dunk on. It's like, you got an art history major, good luck getting a job. Like, wait, what state are we in? And then I think the last one that is just, it's worth pointing out, once again, these tech companies are at all-time highs, but I could tell you each year for the last 3 years that the big tech folks have all fired more than 10,000 employees each, which culminates in like, I think it was 2023. This number I remember being like 250,000 people fired just in big tech, not even talking about little tech, all the startups. So man, I'm like, there are all these unique headwinds. If you're looking for a job, my hope and my belief that it's in the best interest of our country isn't that we take this moment and therefore grow all the entitlement programs, but instead say, dear heavens, how can we empower? How can we empower you to achieve the American dream? So, Joe, I'm like, the timeliness of everything you're pushing towards couldn't be more potent. But what are, like, maybe ground that even less in my Silicon Valley and more like, what are you seeing in Nevada?
No, I mean, I think we're seeing that same trend here. I mean, we have the highest unemployment rate in the country. And I think every business, I mean, the thing that folks need to understand, I mean, we're seeing it disproportionately in the tech sector right now, right? Because it's closest to the outgrowth of it, right? Like the technology is being developed by the companies that are then looking at ways to make their workforces more efficient, right?
Correct.
And I think there's this misunderstanding about what corporate greed is, right? And I think what we call corporate greed is the fiduciary duty, and it's the law of the land. We have made it an obligation for companies, and I'm being a little fuzzy.
This is good. I like it.
But we have made it so that companies have to optimize for profit. And when you do that, it's a simple calculation. Profit equals revenue minus cost. There's only so much you can raise revenue because the market will only bear so many, units of a good, so much amount of a service. There's only a price point that you can max out at. So most companies have tried and succeeded to optimize for price and revenue. That leaves cost. And we have become, as human beings, the most expensive part of most company structures. And so companies owe that fiduciary duty, and they will be removed from their leadership in a company if they don't execute on eliminating jobs that can be eliminated by AI. And I think it's important for folks to understand that because of the operationalizing that fiduciary duty means that it is an economic imperative for these companies to eliminate these roles, and we need to be ready for it. Like there's no, and folks kind of fall in like two different categories on this, or I've seen some people who are almost absolute denialists where they're like, I think it's going to create as many jobs as it destroys. There's going to be no net effect, or it's going to be positive. I've heard some people say it's going to replace all of us. I think the answer is that it's probably going to fall somewhere in the middle, as with most of these cases, right? It's going to be something like, in the not too distant future, we might see 10 to 20% consistent permanent unemployment unless we do something about it.
Yeah, correct.
And I agree that like there's this social question we have to answer around, like, we broke the social contract as it existed before. Do we want to rebuild it in the mold of setting a bottom line, right? Doing the UBI, expanded safety nets, or do we want to try something different and empower people to start their own things? Because the tools to do that, the tools to make your own business, to make your own venture, to find your own happiness and your American dream, have never been more available, and like available at a totally accessible price point. If we're going to have, the safety nets of the future should be largely about giving people those tools, right? Obviously there's a need, right, to make sure that there's a floor no one falls below, but we need to give people opportunity. My biggest criticism of things like UBI is that, one, it's politically hazardous because that means you got to write checks to Elon Musk, right? And there are a lot of voters who can't absorb that, right? Because that's what universal, that the U is a big component. And, and otherwise it becomes, an entitlement program, right? And that has its own political issues. But I think there is, but my concern with UBI more than anything is that it's going to lock people into poverty, and that we're not going to see these opportunities for people to do what I did, do what you did, and climb the ladder in our generation and set up our families to continue climbing. Like, that to me is the heart of the American dream, is starting here and climbing the mountain and having the ability and the opportunity to do so. So everything we do as policymakers and as leaders in this space should be about giving people those tools.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. I'm right. It's like right down the fairway, what I deeply care about. So I'm right there with you. I think maybe the next place my mind goes is how I've come to view Nevada. And this is, let me try this hypothesis on for size.
Sure.
California's neighbor, with, like you said, one of those, like, one of the highest, if not highest, unemployment rates. And yet, being the neighbor, Nevada feels like, I've never said this for a state, the scrappy startup that's hustling on, frankly, like courting business, selling business, being, How
Right.
can Nevada leverage, whether it's tax incentives, no state income tax? When I think of big tech, I think of Tesla's gigafactories. I think
Yeah.
of the massive data warehouse divisions. I'm pretty sure it's Google, Apple. They're all in Nevada. And I don't
Yeah.
think they just woke up one day and said, oh, I'll pull the name out of the hat. We're all going to Nevada. It's 4
Right.
hours from Silicon Valley. Reno's a big hub right there. And my understanding is that each of those deals, Nevada conducted the deal like
Yeah.
a businessman or woman would. So I think there's, as much as sometimes California actually feels like, I don't know, the fat cat or the bloated, like, oh, there's always, it's the good weather
Yeah.
on the beach. We're always going to have
Right.
a vibrant, wealth generating community.
Right.
I'm impressed by Nevada. And therefore, your proposal, this is kind of the leap. If
Right.
I read your proposal without knowing where it came from, and somebody said, take a guess, I would have said, oh man, it's probably 2 or 3 states. And I bet Nevada might be one of them. But like, how
Right.
do you experience Nevada as the scrappy startup? Would you agree with that in any lens?
Yeah. Yeah. I think because we don't have the same things to offer that other states do. And we have to kind of get a little creative in the way we approach things. Like even, our economic diversification folks, and they like walk us through what we're offering in terms of like a tax credits package, a subsidies package. We can't go pound for pound with these other states because the lack of an income tax is it's a limiter, right? Like there's just not as much money to throw into the marketplace to try to get deals done. So like that's where it's so important that we get scrappy and creative, and we find a way to ramen noodles our way to getting people in the door. And like it is a grind and a slog, but I mean, it is some of the most rewarding work. Like the Andreessen Horowitz press release for me was like the most rewarding, like to see thinking outside the box, and that too, like was met with skepticism, right? These ideas where it's like, what exactly are you trying to do here, right? It almost felt like a Moneyball approach, which is almost the type of state we're in. We're like, we can't compete with the Yankees. Yeah. We have to get a little creative in our construction of these business arrangements so that they come here, but we need to do it in a way that is socially responsible, that doesn't disadvantage workers and consumers. And that is a very small target to hit. But I managed to hit it with those 2 bills, and with this bill, I think we're right there again. So just hoping to do anything I can do in that space to continue moving us in that direction while we wait, for kind of the federal government to join us on that.
Yeah. Oh, yep. I'm right there with you. I think maybe because I'm now in this vein of thought around, like, what do I know of Nevada's voting record, right?
Yeah.
Like, as a state, and I tend to think purple.
Yeah, and that's the right. Yeah.
So I'm looking up right now. I'm like, I'm pretty sure it went to Trump because every swing state did in 2024. But yeah, it went, ready? I'm literally looking it up. It went Democrat the year before. So like, how, for one, like if I'm correct,
yeah,
I think I'm also intrigued by not the viability of solutions brought up by Democrats in deep blue states, right? Zohran Mamdani, I love his charisma. I love how good he is at social media.
Right.
But do I want the Democratic Party platform to adopt policy for policy at the national stage? Right. I find that worrisome. Whereas on the other side of the spectrum, it's like, oh man, an Andy Beshear in Kentucky or a Josh Shapiro in Pennsylvania, these much, much more purple states. I'm like, that's the actual laboratory to test on ideas that could work at the national level. Nevada is one of those. So I'm curious, like how for one, how do you experience the electorate and how they prioritize? And then would you agree with me that like, oh my gosh, Nevada could be one of those labs?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think there is absolutely this unique opportunity here for us to showcase what a policy could look like on the national stage, right? And I do experience the electorate as purple. Even in my district that skews a little bit Democrat, it's still like the type of Democrat that doesn't want to hear, I mean, like we've been playing the greatest hits on anti-Trump, like
I
they've heard
know.
it, like they
No,
know.
it's a
I mean,
decade old.
there might be a new wrinkle, like with the one big beautiful bill, like there's a new discussion point, right? And they're willing to engage with the policy. But like, if we go out there and we try to run a standard, just we're not him, that's going to really limit the type of reach we have, because people want to hear, they are exhausted on both sides. And I've seen, even a willingness by conservative voters and conservative community members to be open to things I'm proposing, because I'm trying to speak another language and do things that are outside the realm of what we've tried over and over and over again to do. And I think that that's a really successful formula, because I know right now there's a lot of focus on like personalities and who we're throwing out into these communities, and like a lot of stardom in the national landscape is based around like, oh, how did this person do on this podcast? And here I am on a podcast.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not Joe Rogan.
Right. But like, there has to be ideas behind what we're doing. And I do think that this is a really big opportunity for either party, whoever wants to seize the moment, where we're going to, like, I feel very confident as an attorney in the technology space, as someone who has represented and defended folks at the highest levels of innovation, that we are going to see that unemployment issue. And when that happens, the party that does a better job of speaking to that pain and speaking to solutions to that is going to win, and going to win big. And I think it should be us. And I think the ideas in the entrepreneurship space, they pull through the roof across the board. And like, there's an organization called Right to Start, that their entire focus is trying to boost American entrepreneurship and restore the American dream. And they did a poll that said 94% of voters are aligned with a platform built around entrepreneurship. Nothing polls at 94% these days. Wow. Clean drinking water might not poll at 94%. Like, I couldn't tell you that it could. And that just speaks to, like, there is this unsettling feeling among the electorate that we don't have an economic plan beyond just getting by. And I think a lot of people are starting to feel that pain of just getting by and being mired in debt and just constantly trying to live paycheck to paycheck. And we have to offer them something more. We've got to give them some upside and a real shot at something. So I think that this is our opportunity to, here in Nevada with the Homegrown Opportunity Act and other bills kind of in that vein, I think we can show the national stage, like, there is a way for us to not just win back the electorate, but to win back the electorate with an economic vision for the future that is rooted in the American dream.
Oh, bro. Let me literally, like, I tell you the tagline that I have had spinning through my mind since November 4th, since Trump won the election, which is for Democrats to stand a chance.
Yeah.
This is with the backdrop of me doing all this reading. I'm like, there's almost no chance Democrats are going to take back the Senate anytime soon. And then even the most crucial congressional races are going to be really challenging.
Yeah.
And with the, Texas redistricting, but then the annual census, like, all the momentum is on the Republican side of the House.
Right.
Into perpetuity. Like, the further down the timeline you go, the harder it gets. And therefore, what I want Democrats to laser in on, and it's also exactly what I would vote for, is someone to say, hey, I'm done with the military wars, the culture wars, believe it or not, and definitely Trump's trade wars, because those things are dim-witted. So let's just stop all the wars. And instead, what would it look like if I spent 100% of the time, every minute of every day that I'm awake, hey, if frick, even if I'm dreaming about one thing, and that's, Joe, for your neighbors to have a serious chance at achieving the American dream, and
Right.
not just paying more
Right.
lip service and then passing the big beautiful bill. It's like, no.
Right.
What is the? Let's define this real fast.
Yeah.
And listeners are you've heard it before. It's like, what is the American dream? I want to be able to buy a house, put my kids through college, retire with some peace, and do interesting, compelling work. And all of
Right.
a sudden, I'm like, at the exact same time that those all exist, there are the categories of existential risks our nation faces that, unfortunately, it stresses me out that they're hard to convey to the average voter. The deficit
Right.
scares me. It should
Yeah.
scare everyone, but I get it. I'm like, my wife doesn't like numbers. She doesn't like economics. What's the difference
Right.
between $1 trillion and 35 trillion? What the heck is even $1 trillion? Like, how do you even conceptualize?
Right.
It's like, well, it's just 35, 100. I'm like, no, this is very, very different. As a percentage of GDP, we're host.
Right.
GDP, China lapping us on every critical technology, and Trump just ceding more and more ground day in and day out. The housing crisis, we're 4 million units short. So all of a sudden it's like, oh, not to mention renewables, nuclear, semiconductors. Like, there's a world that exists in my mind that I would love for someone to materialize, where I could say, Joe, let's pull up 5 of your neighbors. I want all of them to have a job offer by the end of the year that pays them $100K in one of these critical technologies. No more trade war. Hey, guess what? You can build the Nikes just like your granddad did in like the sweatshop.
Right.
It's like, that's not enticing. I don't want my kids to do that. $100K job. Let's build 5 million houses so that each of us, California, buying a house for less than $1 million is impossible. I'd love to buy a house for 500 grand.
Right.
I'd love to buy a house for 300 grand.
Right.
And at the same time, like, retire. How do I get folks actually excited about their retirement across every demographic?
Right.
There's all this really just bums me out. The stats on like the rate of savings in demographics that aren't like white, college educated. So anyway, that's just like, I get hyped on all that stuff. First question, it sounds like you'd get hyped. Like, what else did you get hyped on? And then if there's a second question, it's like, what's stopping Democrats from just embracing that full bore? Take that and run.
Yeah, I mean, I get really hyped about giving people that opportunity, right? I mean, I think that's really, I do think a lot of people are capable now with the technology that exists of figuring out what aligns with their skills and what aligns with their passions and finding a way to monetize that.
That's cool.
And I would love to be the connector for that, right? My view of the role of government is to give people the tools to succeed and then get the hell out of the way. And I think there is a blend of establishing safety nets, a blend of giving people that hand up, and then a strain of libertarianism of like letting them operate, right? Giving them the freedom to then exist in the environment you've built. And that really excites me. Like the idea of getting to a place where I go around and more people are entrepreneurs than employees, and more people are at a point of like financial comfort, and retirement for them looks like handing off the keys to their business to their kids. Like that's gotta feel good. I mean, and that was something my dad wanted for us. And like he could just never get it off the ground as an entrepreneur. He just didn't have the access to capital. He was up against the same pressures that a lot of people face today, where you're too busy keeping the lights on to try to build something, right? It's like trying to build a sandcastle as the ocean keeps throwing waves at you. Like you just never get to a point where you get to build something that's resilient. So I think that anything I can do to move the needle in that direction, that's what gets me hyped. And I do think that the Democratic Party writ large can go that direction. And I think that we're seeing the early signs that we might go that direction, right? And I think Ro is one of those thinkers that's on the national stage, and this is the type of thing he's into, right? He wants the solution to our issues to be going all in on American entrepreneurship and innovation. We shouldn't run from being builders and creators. I think that's the thing that has been our national ethos, could be our way out of the not, I don't want to say a failed economic theory, but an incomplete economic theory where we've driven ourselves to a point where we need a correction. And I think that could be the correction.
Yeah, man, it does feel like, as much as these feel like headwinds, big beautiful
Right.
bill, AI job displacement, the Democrats just absolutely like, it just feels like a big group of people in a room and somebody turned the lights off and everyone's just like scrambling, bumping into each other. I'm like, I don't know up from down. Like, this is chaos, guys. What's the plan here? It's not a common American experience for a party to be this leaderless, rudderless.
Yeah.
Identity so in question. But here's what the thing that I typically feel is like, oh my gosh, where's the hope in all of that? But then the flip side is like, those that might apply enough pressure to the system, just enough to actually influence change. So
Yeah.
I like, man, the concept of, I love how you're saying it. If we have two doors in the next decade, one where 20% of Americans are unemployed, or the other where we are partnering and empowering that 20% to be value additive. At the intersection, and this is, I'm pretty sure I've heard Vinod Khosla, who's like one of the godfathers of VC at this point, who I'm pretty sure speaks highly of Ro. I'm like, I feel like I can hear his accented voice, like talking about how great Ro is. If someone like Vinod, who is he's one of those techno, maybe not utopian, but like optimists, saying like AI, if you drill it all the way down to first principles, it will unlock every Homo sapiens access to find the intersection of their greatest joy and greatest passion and greatest skill set. Like that's it. Geez, can't think of a much more optimistic view of the world. Like I love that. But how the heck do we realize that view for the world? And I think a pure libertarian isn't going to have the solutions. I think it needs to be a marriage of entrepreneurs, technologists, and policymakers who are like agilely and aggressively making big bets. And right now, I put you at that intersection.
Thank you. It's a small target to hit, but I think we're there. And I do think, I mean, there is something to be said for, I don't know. I mean, it's a really unique moment we're in, trying to navigate like all of these like different paths we could take. Right. And I do think like there are some folks that want to go pure libertarianism, let the market go. But I think like, as we talked about, like by operation of the fiduciary duty, by operation of companies having to maximize shareholder value, we're going to see the market drive itself to a place of 10 to 20% constant unemployment. And then each individual company, it's like with any other global issue, right? Like no individual company is going to feel like it's their obligation to fix that, right? No company is going to be like, okay, I'll take the hit. I'm going to hire 15,000 people. Like no one's going to do that, right? Like that's not going to happen. So we as policymakers have to have a seat at the table to make sure that we address that eventuality. And I do think like, isn't it more beautiful and more true to our values to get to a place where we've put as many individual small entrepreneurs into the market as possible, right? And we've taken that 20%, we've chipped it down to its minimum, and we've filled the market with all these people who are not just working, not just like slaving by trying to get to their pension or whatever the case may be. They're doing what they want to do during their working years, and retirement looks like the culmination of the dream, right? It's not, life doesn't start at retirement. You've been living it the whole way. And AI, I mean, this is, working in the technology space has been so exciting for the past decade because I've gotten to watch this evolution and I've gotten to see things become more possible that weren't before. And I do think there's a version of policymaking, a version of societal choices we could make that will steer us towards almost the tech best case scenario of it being the lever that gets a bunch of people to the American dream. And that's, if we can be a part of that, if we can make that happen, that's, I can't imagine a better way to use my time in public service.
I think there's exactly that, like, philosophical conviction that I'm so thankful for the way you're thinking about it. I think for the exact persona that is a VC who's betting on the next AI startup,
right?
It's probably going to add, whether you admit it or not, to some of that AI job displacement.
Right.
So like that persona, let's envision them listening right now.
Right.
And I think that kind of persona also cares a lot about the U.S. deficit. That persona is probably 60. They got kids in college. They're worried about, like, hey, what's the world that I'm going to hand off to the next generation? And the deficit, if you're economically minded, you're what is it, like quivering in your boots, like you're nervous. You should be. And now I think one of the things that I've been most intrigued by, trying to run the numbers myself, kind of back of the napkin, is there are really two ways to cut debt. And let's start with like you and me. It's like, oh my gosh, went on hard times, the company didn't work, wife needed surgery. You put it on the credit card. Like, how many of our, at least in my world, I'm like, I have a lot of friends that at different points in the last decade, medical debt alone has been this like egregious thing. Yeah. How do you get out of it? You cut expenses, you grow income to get out of debt. That's let's just simplify. And therefore, so often when the next political analyst talks about the deficit, the core thing is like, should we doge this? Should we just start cutting left and right? And it's like, okay, yes, and for one, it's Clinton and Gore that actually really effectively reduced government expenses by 10%, where right now all of the bluster from Doge is looking like a $9 billion, like it's whatever 9 billion into 6.5 trillion is, 0.015. Like it's a laughable amount that Doge actually did. So we aren't good at cutting the expenses. What's the last option? To grow. How do you grow? You need to empower. These are like really maybe boring, nerdy econ terms from my undergrad. But a core element is labor productivity. And ultimately as well, within that being entrepreneurship, here's the magic number that I think for listeners, I would just encourage us to like really start thinking about. If GDP grew, I think it's like 2.6, 2.7% last year. And now all the estimates under Trump and the trade war stuff has me scared, because it could like as much as half, which is terrifying. I'm like, golly, is this what all the Republican pro-business people were hoping for? GDP dropping by 50%. But here's the magic number. In order to actually keep expenses the same in the government and yet shrink the deficit, we need to grow by more than 3% a year, GDP. That's actually, it's this really simple thing to hopefully explain to folks that aren't economically minded. Is like, how much are you growing? 2% or 3%? If you're above 3%, we're good. If you're into the 3.5%, 4%, we're lowering the debt, just like if you got a good job and you're paying off your credit card debt. That comes from labor productivity, ultimately. Yes. And guess what? Labor productivity is driven by technology innovation. And I would argue exactly what you're doing, Joe. Empowering individuals to create exponential value on their time. So I'm like, this isn't just some next democratic policy to appeal to the working class. I'm like, no. VC, 60-year-old who's worried about the deficit, we need to juice the productivity stat. Otherwise, the world you're leaving your kids is screwed. It's totally hosed. So I'm like, Joe, do more. Keep going. It's so critical. Maybe I'm getting too fired up here. No, I hear you agreeing. But like, what comes to your mind when you hear all that?
No, I mean, I think that's exactly right. I mean, like, we have to, our economy could continue the way it's continued and get smaller and smaller. And that's going to mean more people need social safety nets. Or we can reimagine the whole thing and put people, like, we have product managers at Google that could be entrepreneurs. We have, as crazy as this is, baristas at Starbucks that could be entrepreneurs. Like, you never know where these folks are. And like, we could give them the tools to change the whole landscape of our economy and stop zeroing it. I mean, there's absolutely a good place, there's a place in our policy for creating jobs for people, right? Like, some people just want a place to land, and that's totally fine. But I think we've allowed too many people to get into the mindset that that's the only path. And a large part of that is because of the barriers to entry that have been built up, right? Like, the internal calculus for a person is it's not rational to start a business because of all of these obstructions. And so I would hope that, this is a vision that, folks in Silicon Valley, as people who are used to investing in outside the box things, would see this as a real opportunity to like hard reset the American economy around its core ethos of entrepreneurship and get back to the idea of like, you come here, you hang your own shingle, and you achieve financial independence. That's what it's always been about. And I think we can get there.
Wow. Joe, I couldn't agree more. I know, I love that note of this isn't some Silicon Valley techno utopian vision.
Right.
This is America. Like, man, I can tell you for all, I don't have some like great grandfather who came over on whatever, the Mayflower. It's like, oh, mine's all in the 1900s. It's pretty recent. So I knew a lot of the folks that moved from the Middle East, from Eastern Europe, from Scotland was like a generation older. But each one of them, I'm like, man, the grandfather I knew the best, he started a laundromat. I'm not going to say that that's my biggest ambition myself, but his hustle is exactly why I'm here today. And now he's now passed. But I'm like, dude, that stuff makes me emotional. I'm so thankful he did that. Yeah. So thankful. So to give that opportunity to, whether it's the next immigrant or just every other demographic that I would be so thrilled to empower. It's like, you doing that. Yeah. Grandpa starting the laundromat helped me become an AI entrepreneur. I'm like, I want that for everybody. I just want it.
There's nothing, I mean, if we could give that to our kids, right? If that's the future we leave behind, like that's beautiful. Like that's not just like great policy. That's not just like, beyond like high-minded ideal. Like, it's an actually beautiful result for people to be able to pursue their passions and have financial rewards for doing so, because we've made the resources available for them to do that and taken down the barriers preventing them from doing that. So I'm so glad that we've done this, because it's such a like refreshing thing to have this conversation and kind of break the mold from the same old policies we've been talking about for so long.
I know. The same old policies that everyone's tired of.
Yeah.
Just tired. Yeah. Joe, this has been a colossal treat.
Likewise.
I've enjoyed every minute of this. I always try to do this. You get the last word. Is there anything else on your heart or mind that you haven't had a chance to speak to, or just, man, something else that's core to what you're going after in life that you want to end with?
I would just say, I'm going to keep doing this work, and anyone that wants to join me on this, I would love to connect. I'm always looking for new ideas and new ways we can approach this. And if anyone has any wrinkles on this that they can think of, or any new ideas, Nevada is a perfect place to try these new economic injectors. And I would love to hear from you.
Brilliant. All right, we're going to end there. Joe, thanks for being an amazing guest. Everyone, give him a follow on social media. If there's a chance you're in his district, do everything else. Go door knock and vote for him. But otherwise, thanks to everyone that listened, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you.